Welcome to the Spiritual Principles Made Practical podcast. Today we have Don Marie, let me get your last name right, Wristley Childs, is that right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, good. And she's a motivational speaker, and she and I've had a chance to visit, and I think you're going to be uplifted and enjoy her infectious energy. So tell us about yourself and what you're up to and what you have to offer us, which I can already tell is going to be wonderful.
Yes, I'm excited. So, I am a board certified psychiatrist. I've been a practicing physician for 30 years, and I'm moving towards coaching physician women. It's a natural progression of psychiatry, of course, and it comes from many years of pattern recognition. That's my gift. I've never been much of a memorizer. If you give me a list to memorize, it's like, I don't get that.
I'm with you.
But patterns, that's what I recognize. And that's where psychiatry became such a natural specialty to me because as patients speak with me, I recognize the symptoms and I'm able to pick them out and put together a reasonable diagnosis. And when those things are not psychiatric, I'm able to find them as well. And so I find many medical conditions in patients that originally came to me because someone told them, you're mentally unwell. And I look and go, I think you got a tumor in your pancreas. I've had three. It's interesting. So there's something called an insulinoma. It's just incidental. I've, it's 1 in 4,000 people have it. So I've diagnosed two and had a third as a patient. She came to me with a diagnosis. So I've seen at least 12,000 patients in my 30-year career, but I've diagnosed two. And it's pretty amazing. Even the endocrinologists didn't get it, and the surgeons didn't get it. And I looked at it, and like, yeah, this is not normal anxiety. There's something else here. And so, the problem with that particular illness is who the heck is going to treat it? It's finding someone to treat it, and you got to send them to the Mayo Clinic because that's the only place. And there's not even much the literature is 20 years old. That's on it too. So it's getting it treated is always the difficult part. But that's neither here nor there. That's not why we're here to talk.
Well, it kind of is because it speaks to your ability for pattern recognition and stuff. And how do you leverage that in your motivational speeches and your uplifting speeches and such?
Exactly. That's what I'm doing is leveraging that in speaking. And so I'm taking my first corporate speech to my alma mater, Elizabethtown College, where their motto is educate for service. And I'm meeting twice there, once with a large group that's open to the college campus. And the next stop, or at least the first stop, is going to be with the RAs and the team that runs the resident assistants. And so my speech is going to be about the patterns that I've recognized is what I interpret as corporate coercion in medicine. And I'm going to be exposing how, especially women, while all doctors are being exploited today, and nurses. I mean, the exploitation is quite intense in medicine in general across the board, but especially women. It is especially women who are being exploited in medicine. But the other portion of my visit there is going to be speaking to the RAs about child sexual abuse and how that continues on well within the college years and maybe beyond because they are going to be facing students who have been sexually assaulted by mom's boyfriend or mom's husband or by mom, and how it's not uncommon for that to continue even during college.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you give them things to look for in terms of recognizing that and then
Yeah, we're going to have an open discussion on it. It's not that I have a list of things of going on, but there, I know for myself that there were rumors and that RAs are going to need to pay attention to the rumors. When I came back to the college dorm after a weekend of my stepfather being up there to visit me, then I was going to bed crying. I was in tears. And so it's those small things that the RAs need to pay attention to, and they need to make sure that that student is in a safe environment and feels safe. And further, the college needs to reassure the student that they're going to be taken care of.
yeah,
That
I mean, I think it's so important because, so often people diagnose the problem, but they don't diagnose the cause and they don't diagnose the solution.
Yes.
I mean, because it's like, okay, well, I have this problem, but what do I do with it?
Yes, exactly. And I think that for me, I partially disclosed the sexual abuse that had occurred prior to college. And I discussed it in very vague terms because I didn't feel safe enough yet to fully disclose. And I was worried. I was worried about how am I going to pay for college?
Right.
And where am I going to go when the school shuts down for spring break because I'm not allowed to stay in the dorm?
Wow. Yeah.
And I did not feel comfortable with a roommate. I really would have done better having a single room. And I had a single room both my junior and senior year, and I did much better being alone. And because I felt safer sleeping alone than I did with someone else.
Right.
Yeah, and I needed that for security, for peace of mind, for quiet. I was just so hyper vigilant that I couldn't calm down with someone else living there, with someone else being there.
Yeah.
So students need the victim needs to be reassured. And when I disclosed to the therapist said, "Well, look at your body language. You're closed," because I guess I was like this, and she said, "You're closed. You're closed off."
Yeah.
And what I heard was, "I'm judging you," and
Right.
I
Right.
felt judged because
Right.
it's look at you.
Right.
And what I needed to hear was, "Do you feel safe enough to tell me what's going on?"
Right.
Right? Because the abusers will tell the victim, don't tell anybody about this.
Uh-huh.
But they don't tell anybody not to say I don't feel safe.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So when you establish safety, it's very much, we find this in schizophrenia, in schizophrenic patients. Schizophrenic patients are tortured by auditory hallucinations. Their voices are calling them names, calling them nasty kind of things, telling them all kinds of sexual things that they want to do with the next guy, like whatever is the most shameful thing that could possibly come up. That's what a schizophrenic patient is hearing. And the voices will say, don't talk to her, don't tell her about us. I mean, they command that. So I would have learned to get around some of that is, so you hearing voices? No, I don't hear voices. Are the voices telling you not to talk to me? And it sets them back. Like, oh, well, the voices haven't told me that. So it lets them disclose a little bit.
Right. 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 Right.
Right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's how it works. And so when you apply those same things even to non-schizophrenic patients, which I think you're going to find one of the primary causes is abuse and neglect in childhood. And I think if we really start analyzing that, when we really prevent this kind of abuse and neglect from going on in families, we're going to prevent things like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder as well.
And being abused as a child isn't necessarily limited to sexual abuse. It could be physical abuse
All of
or
it, physical,
yeah.
emotional. Emotional seems to have some of the biggest turmoil on
It's
victims.
hard to pin down, you know. I mean, it's hard to pin down and it's what I found is that in my own experiences is that um so often I thought, well, I shouldn't let the fear of being in my own home um restrict my life. And because as a child, I took vacations with other families. I spent as much time with other families as I possibly could.
To get out of your house.
Yeah, well, I wasn't safe there.
Yeah,
I wasn't safe. I mean, my older brother just, he just kept beating me up, and my parents were clueless as to what to do about it. I mean, they had absolutely no idea and didn't seek out outside help.
yeah.
And so I was kind of on my own,
Well, you were also the scapegoat. I mean, was your brother mentally ill?
No, and as an adult, he told me that he said, well, I said, we were talking about it, and I said, well, what was that all about? And he said, well, he said, I was jealous of you because you could open up and have conversations with our mother that I couldn't have. And I thought to myself, you know, why should that be my problem?
Because your mother was splitting the two of you. She was, you got to look back, deep back. Here's the thing. Here's the uncomfortable part. And it was the part that I myself had to face. No child wants to stand back and really look at where is the source coming from.
Right.
And I had taken about a year off from my mother when I was in medical school. And then I was learning about antisocial personality disorder. I was learning about psychopathy. I was learning about child sexual abuse specifically. We have the CARES Institute in New Jersey that was founded by one of our attending physicians, and he was my mentor. And he created this entire institute for all of the children who are being sexually abused in the greater Philadelphia area and South Jersey and come down to get evaluated there. They get physically evaluated with colposcopy, etc. And then they get set up with psychiatrists and psychologists and a whole support team and network. And so it's no accident that that man was this is our divine and our spiritual practice, right? This is the
Yeah.
divine, the portion of the divine intervention that said, well, Don Marie, I know you've been treated poorly, so I'm going to put you right here where the CARES Institute is. And guess who's going to be your mentor? The guy who found it. Okay, we're going to do that for you. And I took a year off from my mother, and then I sent her a letter telling her, look, you married a guy with antisocial personality disorder. And this is how child molesters groom their victims. And there were memories that I had always had that I just pushed back enough that I wasn't quite ready to face with my mother.
Yeah. Okay.
And it took just the most awful Christmas vacation that she had with me for me to finally say, all right, I'm done. And I went on stage a couple months back to the Moth. I wanted to test some things out, And I talked about how during my medical school graduation, that, here we are, this group of 65 people getting ready to walk across stage, be called doctor for the first time. And my mother was incessant about me removing my glasses because I look better without them,
Oh my.
including when we were 10 deep about to walk across the stage. And until I yelled at her to knock it off. And then she played the victim and crumped over and played the victim. And she did this with me that last visit 3.5 years ago. And I had given her this beautiful wallet for Christmas that matched this gorgeous purse that I bought her for Mother's Day. I spent quite a lot of money on her that Christmas, more than I had. I was overindulging, of course, because love has a price tag in my family, of course. And she made this face
Oh no.
over this gorgeous wallet. And the photo was so bad, I actually had to erase it. I could not just look at that photo. It was so terrible. And I dropped her off in the airport, and she pulls the wallet out. And I said, "Do you like the wallet, Mom?" And she's like, "Nah, I'm just teasing. It's gorgeous." And I'm thinking, no, you don't like it. And you never liked it. And you didn't like the purse. But I told you that if you don't like it, you can mail it back and get something that you do like. But instead, she just, let me hold on to this ugly thing that my daughter gave me was her attitude. And it was gorgeous, by the way. It was a beautiful wallet and it was amazing. And I didn't even have a personal wallet like that, but I gave one to her. And so when she did that and she said, "I'm just teasing," I hugged her goodbye and I turned on my heel. And as I pushed my way through the door, I said to myself, a little out loud under my breath, "I'm never bringing her back here again." And I spoke to her once, right as she got off the plane. She was getting confused, and I was calling Philadelphia to help her. And then I spoke to her very briefly on her birthday, where she was extremely negative and just judgmental again. And I got off the phone with her and, handed her to the kids so the kids could say happy birthday. And then that was the last time I spoke to her. And that allowed me to be able to face and be able to say, okay, now I'm really ready to look at my mother. And I had a lot of questions during the treatment. And I had psychedelic treatment,
Okay.
yeah, for trauma. And it started out with a lot of anger work. And I started with questions like, who allows a mother, what mother allows you to do this? What mother allows her husband to take her daughter into the bathroom and shave her?
Oh my.
Not once, not to show you how, but every time, every week during swimming, every week during the summer, multiple times, at least 100 times. And like, what mother does that? And my healer said she was collaborating with him. Collaborating with him? But you mean she was in on it? And that made me really look back to even further before he even came into our lives when I was 6. And it brought me to some very hard truths that my mother handed me to him. I was an offering. The price tag was he's going to go out and work real hard. And, she was a master manipulator. I always used to look at her as the victim because he was very clearly a psychopath. But she kept him working. She took that, he had this failing, flailing business, and she turned it around, and she called every builder she knew in all of South Jersey and got him work. And she ran the business. She ran his plumbing business. And she did all of that. She did all the behind the scenes, and she never had to go into work at Bell Telephone again. He didn't want her working. No, she didn't want to work. It was, now I'm looking back at this going, yeah, she was sly. She made it
Right.
his idea. She was manipulative and amazing at it. And I was the scapegoat of the family. And I recognized when she was here that no matter what I accomplish, no matter how big my house is, no matter how much money I earn, no matter what I do, no matter what I give her, she's like a bottomless cup of coffee.
Right.
She is, there is, the well is beyond dry, and I can't get love from her. And it doesn't matter how much I try to earn it. I just never felt, I always had to earn her love, and I never got it. And, and that's led me, now here I am, I'm turning that pain into purpose. And that was just one large portion of the pattern recognition, recognizing these things as patterns with my mother. And I learned and was able to open up that those patterns exist in medicine and in hospital systems. And I also started recognizing it even in my own marriage. And I've been putting the pattern together, and I recognize it all now as coercive control. And so that is leading me on to a path as a keynote speaker. It's leading me to, I've got a couple books with some, words on the page still. I'm in the words on the page section and, area. And it gives me something to speak about. And that it gives me, I have one coaching client now, and yesterday when I was in my meeting with all the other coaches who are learning to be coaches, someone had said, as I was talking about my student, someone said, "Your face lights up when you talk about her." And it's true. I am so proud of her. She came to an understanding of discernment. I can't get into those details, of course, because of, confidentiality, but she learned discernment. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, look what she just did. I don't even know that she really recognizes what she just did, but it's my job to tell her, look what you just did.
Exactly.
Look what you just did. That's
Exactly.
discernment. It's
Exactly.
working already. That's amazing. So looking at my program, and my program that I wrote, that I developed, is all based on my original writing of the offering, and all of the words on the page that I have now in my future books, and the discussions that I've had, and the other things that I've created. I was able to pull out an entire coaching program with it, and it's amazing. It's amazing, and I'm really looking forward to liberating more women from coercive control in all of their domains, whether it's from being a parent or a wife or a daughter, or like I had faced, or even in their medical practice. The pattern is the same all across all domains, and yeah, it's really exciting. It's exciting work. It's exciting work to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was having a discussion with my wife, and we were saying that, our estimation is probably more than half of the women in the world, or at least in the country, have been sexually abused in some.
Yeah, yeah, it's high. The numbers are high. The statistics that first came out That came out in the early 90s, right as I was graduating from medical school. And at the time, it was 1 in 4 girls. And the boys took a big range, anywhere from 1 to 3 to 1 to 10, depending on who was studying it. And they're now noting, quote, improvements. But being a physician and looking at what is a good study and what is a bad study, when I look at the studies now, they've left a huge portion out of what they consider, child molestation. So the most recent statistics by the same people, um, they left out sexting, they left out voyeurism.
Wow.
And that's really where it started with my stepfather, is that the door was left off of my bedroom. And in the morning, when I was getting dressed, he would stand at my door and peek around the corner to watch me get dressed. And I walked out to tell my mother. And when I walked out, I saw my mother watching him watch me.
Oh, wow.
And it, I mean, I questioned then at 6, but I had no one else to go to. I was
Yeah.
dependent on her.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where I just had to set aside and convince myself. I'm still not sure whether I walked back into my room and then walked out to see whether or not she was there, or if that was a second time, or if that was just me playing that in my mind. I don't have it clear.
Right.
I mean, it was so long ago. I was 6. I'm 50. It's 51 years ago. It was 51 years ago. It was a long time ago, but it happened, and I know it happened, and that was she was collaborating with him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how people find ways to hide bad behavior.
Yeah, so here's the thing that gets me, and I'm about to, Tim Tebow, if you're out there listening, you're getting a copy of my book, and I'm sending it to you tomorrow. Taking it to the post office. Um, we talk about child trafficking. He has a really good point about, I just saw his video where he has all these blue dots of where they have pings of where child pornography is coming from on the internet. And then the red dots are where they're actually being investigated. And when you look at the number, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Uh, we keep looking at child traffickers. We're looking at the Epsteins of the world. We're looking at how large these rings are. We're looking at the churches. We're looking at what's happening in schools. We're not looking at what's happening at home. And
Yeah.
until we start looking at it in the home, we're never going to get a handle of it, because it's the parents that are selling the children. And it's the parents that are exploiting the children. And until we gain ground there, we're not going to go anywhere. And what's very sad, we'll see. I went, there was a statute of limitations for when I could file a civil suit. And I was getting very close down to the wire of that. And I did file, but I couldn't get an attorney to take on the case, because whenever I would call these attorneys that say, yeah, you were sexually abused, we're going to help you, they were saying, oh no, you're an individual, we're not going to help you. We only take things from like schools, churches. We want mass large quantities of victims. Well, but wait a minute, my stepfather had a daycare center. I bet you file, you're going to have a whole slew. Statistically, there's probably about 40 more children, at least by statistics. So, if not by his former stepdaughter, very potentially still there too. And most women don't disclose until they're in their 50s. And while I did disclose in my early 20s, I was still very much discouraged from opening up about it, whether it's by my attendings, my colleagues, etc. Like, look, you tell people this, and they kind of look at you like you have a third eye. Like, where are you coming from? And, part of it was, the trauma dumping that I was doing because I needed someone to listen to me. I needed to
Right.
be heard for the first time. But also, people are just terribly uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, I'm sure, because they don't have any, people say, well, what evidence do you have? And it's like, well, just me, and it's hard because,
Yeah.
it can devolve into he said, she said.
But there are other ways. I've been evaluating veterans right recently, and military sexual trauma. 1 in 3 women in the military experience sexual trauma, and I think it was 1 in 10 men experience sexual trauma,
Really, in
and
medicine.
in the military. And uh, the military now just accepts it. You don't have to, if you're a veteran and you were sexually assaulted, you don't have to talk. All you have to do is say, I experienced military sexual trauma. Boom, done. Um, but they look for other supporting evidence, such as, does this person have a pelvic exam, and did she have a pelvic exam, and was her uterus retroverted? Well, I remember the first time that I had a pelvic exam that the doctor said, you have a retroverted uterus.
What does that mean? I don't even
So
know.
the uterus lays in the pelvis. And, it's supposed to just be sitting there, nice and erect and firm.
Right.
But when it's retroverted, it's pulled back.
Okay.
And it's turned over, and it's nailed to the wall, literally, of your pelvis. And so that was a sign of the trauma that I experienced in my pelvis since I was a little kid.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have an off the wall question is that what drives people to be sexual predators?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think anyone knows. We are apex predators by nature. Um, I think there's that portion of people's consciousness that has not developed yet. They haven't developed true moral character. We come at free will, right? We have people that
Right.
there's good and evil in all of us, and we come at free will.
Right.
And but it is the easiest, and children are the easiest targets. Women are the easiest targets, and it
Yeah.
is the most humiliating. It is the most humiliating form of abuse to sexually assault someone.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Would think so.
And I think that, in the schools, we really need to, we talk about slavery.
Hmm.
Slavery has been going on for millennia. The United States we didn't invent it, but it got brought here. But guess what? We ended it. And we need to start focusing on that victim mentality towards that victor mentality. We ended slavery.
Right.
Let's
Okay.
now expand and end slavery around the world. And let's end also, while the whips and chains slavery and the auctioning people off slavery may be over, but we still have child trafficking, and that's slavery,
Oh yeah.
right? We still have overburden with debt. That's a form of slavery. We have student loans that are so astronomical that even when we're in terribly coercive, controlling situations in hospitals, instead of leaving, we keep going because we have student loan debt to pay.
Wow. Yeah.
So it just shifted. It's not completely gone. It's the burden has shifted a bit.
Explain that a little bit more.
It's exploited. So it may not be the end result is there. You are still this beast of burden
Right, right.
designed to be exploited. Well, not by design. By design, we're meant to be free, but entrapped. And you get entrapped by student loans. You get
Okay, I
entrapped
got
by
it.
debt. You get entrapped where you're at the point where I don't know how to get out of this situation.
Yeah, no, the whole stratification of income and all of that is all um wrapped up in that, in terms of exploiting people one way or another, whether it's from labor or otherwise.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's one of the things that I think is important to realize is that, and I always like to say whenever I get a chance, and I'm going to take it now, is that you can only experience so much love and joy and peace and success in life before, in order to move to a greater level of that, you have to do something to try to uplift everybody, and you have to start to
Yes.
see everybody as a coherent whole, and look at people like, Rockefeller, who his health was failing, but when he started his philanthropic action, his health got better. And
Exactly.
have people like the small percentage of very wealthy people that are contributing a vast amount of their income, not enough, not just a piecemeal enough to say that they did it and they're not guilty of not caring, but
Yeah.
that really care and really give a substantial portion of their income to trying to help people. Talk about how much that's enriched their lives and stuff. And I think that that's something that I want put out there a lot. I'd love
Yes.
for, the Bill Gates of the world to talk about how his life has been enriched by his efforts to try to use the money he has to help on as broad a scale as he can financially handle, you know.
May not be the best example given
Well, I
the
don't know. I mean,
current climate.
I don't know. I'm not an expert on all these people, but the basic
Yeah.
concept I think is there. And
Yes, I understand. I when I think about, an excellent company for women, especially, is
mhm.
Mary Kay Cosmetics,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Here's a lady who loved the church. She stood up and they asked her, Mary Kay, we need to raise money to, for the preschool. We need some books and things. And so Mary Kay got up and she just did this spontaneous speech. And she said, and I will match the donations. I will match the donations. And she said it 3 or 4 times. They called her that night. They said, Mary Kay, we love you. But I don't know about this whole matching the donations thing. We want to let you know we're going to let you off the hook for that because it's a substantial amount. And it's like $165,000 or something very big and crazy. And they were just blown away with how much was raised. And and she was kind of taken back, like, okay, where am I going to get this money from? And then her son called her and said, hey, mom, remember those oil fields that we invested in? Well, they came up, and guess what? We have the money. And so now they have this huge preschool for these kids and this great place and that
That's
kind of
awesome.
thing. You put it out there. But
Yeah.
there was a game that I think probably should every student should learn. I think it's a good business game. I think it's a good business model. And that is when I was taking care of at-risk youth up in Portland, um, they had they had these kind of icebreaker introductory games, and they had two groups in different rooms, and they would send one person to the other room to find out how they voted, whether they voted black or red. And if they voted the same, then they would get 2 points. If they voted different, one would get 1 point and the other would get 0 points. And but the object of the game was to get the most points possible. And
Okay.
that was it. That was the rules. That was it. There were no other rules.
Okay.
And when the kids keep doing this, and you can see them getting frustrated and such, and then someone would walk in and say, group one voted red. Like, oh, well, we voted black, so, we only got 1 point. And then towards the end of the game, they revisited the rules. And they said, did we tell you that you couldn't get together in the same room and all vote the same? Kids were looking like, no, they didn't. And they said, did we tell you that you couldn't cooperate with each other? Like, no, they didn't tell us that we couldn't do that. And the whole point of the game was that if someone had looked at and said the most positive possible points, if we all get together and we all vote the same, then we all win. And so it was creating a win-win for everyone. And when we cooperate, when we feel stingy and no, I want this percent for me and I want that percent for you, then we don't get anywhere. But if we create a win-win, you have the money, I don't, but I have the idea. I'll give you this much and I'll take that much. Boom, we create a win-win.
Well, I'm telling you, the world needs more win-win. You know,
Yes, they do.
that's my that's my big thing. I mean, people know me as the win-win guy. Is my sign that I take to protest is there's a win-win solution to every problem.
Always, always. There's always a win-win. Exactly. Yeah, where we can all win.
You know,
Exactly.
and that's kind of where I was trying to get with, the idea of, I always look at people that are engaging in destructive behavior
Hmm.
because I know that if you hurt somebody else, you're hurting yourself, you're hurting everybody,
Yes,
right? Because we're all one,
exactly.
right? And so it's like,
Exactly.
okay, how do you communicate that, alternative to elected officials that, you know what, you would be more electable if you did what was best for the country instead of putting your party over the country, you'd
Or
actually be
themselves over the
for
country. And
yourselves.
see, that's the thing is that you can't convince those people.
Really?
Because no, you can't. Because they're selfish, they're stingy, they can't think for anyone but themselves. They either have this low self-esteem where they feel that this is the narcissisms of the world. Their self-esteem is so low that they have that constant want energy, and they're out there to exploit everyone. Um, because if they can't have it, then no one should have it, or they feel their value is so low that they feel um, that they don't deserve it, and that
Right.
their self-concept is that they deserve nothing but to be in the filth and the dregs because that's what I deserve. And so I'm going to tear you down until you give me that, because that gives me the energy and the feed, because my ego is so huge. And until you have ego dissolution, you can't get to that other side.
But I mean, it
Might
can't be
have to put some
communicated to
acid in
them
the
that
water in the Senate building.
what's that?
I said you might have to put some LSD in the water in the Senate building. And
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it seems that, people have taken a run at it at various points in time, in the political arena, to try to, um, for lack of a better word, bring a win-win orientation and thinking to things.
yes, yeah,
And they haven't carried the day yet for sure, but it doesn't look to me as though that there's been a complete giving up either.
yeah. There is a lot of narcissism and sociopathy in our quote leadership. And I think that that's part of the problem is that very word is leadership. We were a nation created by its people.
Right.
We weren't meant to have quote leaders. We were meant to have that we run the government doesn't run us. And that has eroded tremendously to the point where people are burdened with a tax burden of in excess of 49%. That's a burden for people that gets them up and keeps getting them working harder and harder. You know, how do you stop working? There's a point where you have to say, okay, I just have to stop working because this is not, I have nothing left to give.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's all going out the door, why do I bother working into another tax bracket when the government's just going to take more? Where do I break even? And there's a point where that has to stop. That's not sustainable. And a government that continues to rely on its people for everything just keeps growing. And the bigger you grow, the more inefficient it gets, and the more room you have for exploitation. How are all of these senators and congressmen, how are they getting their wealth?
Well, I can tell you, I mean, it's the reason they all vote against making insider trading illegal for people in Congress.
Exactly.
That's how they make their wealth
Exactly.
is
Well,
they
that's
know
one
the laws
way.
that are coming and they invest to take advantage of that before anyone else knows.
Yes, that's true, and that is one way. And there are people out there who are monitoring what Nancy Pelosi is, investing in, and they're making money that way too. And but that's fascism, right? We're letting the businesses run the government. And that's why, we have to have a social net. There are people that just need being taken care of. The people that I've taken care of, the schizophrenics or the patients with bipolar disorder who got so violent because of their mental illness that they needed help. They need assistance and they need to stay alive. We have those people. But if you're capable of getting up and going, why am I supporting you? It's not fair to me.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of what I call short-sighted inequities, right? So people are like, I mean, one of the things that I admire so much about Gandhi is that he was able to communicate that exploiting people in his case countries uh, hurts both the exploited and the exploiter.
Hurts
And
everyone.
he
That's
was,
right.
and it was through his efforts that Great Britain decided to divest themselves of their colonies, and because he was able to communicate that effectively, and I mean, and to me, it's like we need somebody that can communicate that effectively, that exploitation not only hurts the exploited, but it hurts the exploiter as well.
Exactly. Exactly. I look at my nephew's family. My nephew's whiter than I am, I think. He's tall and blonde. I learned that I've come from, Viking background from my genetic testing. He's got a little bit more red hair. His mom is more Irish than anything, but, the Viking side and the British side all came from our family. And he is now divorced from this beautiful Black woman who was a ballerina from the South, very smart woman. And they have this mixed race child who's like 9 or 10 years old now. And his most recent wife is from Canada and she's of Chinese descent. So they just had this beautiful picture. Their wedding picture is just fabulous that you have this very petite Chinese woman with this very Irish looking white boy with they're small, mixed race mulatto type, child. And it's gorgeous. The picture is beautiful. And, you have this melding of different cultures. How rich are we to be able to enjoy and learn about other people's cultures? And that's how we learn and that's how we become better. And, you know, I, my my friend has a theory about Britain and food. He said the British are angry. They have terrible food. He said, but the Italians, they don't go to war. They get married and they make love. They have great food. Everybody loves Italian food. He goes, what about the French? Yeah, the French are lovers. They have great food. He goes, but the Germans, their food is terrible. They're angry. He's Polish. We said, well, what about the Poles? He's like, oh, they're just stupid.
Oh no.
So he plays on his own stereotype. But yeah, the Polish food, I mean, bratwursts and sauerkraut and things, right? Like we all love these things. Food is culture. So if you really want to help culture, we feed someone. But his theory was that Great Britain was angry and they would destroy whoever had terrible food, but whoever had good food, that's who they would support because their food was so terrible.
It's hysterical.
But food is culture. It is. And when we sit down to eat, that's really where, things happen. When we sit down and we break bread together, that's when we start learning and appreciating each other culturally.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And one of the reasons, I always say that, the real strength of the United States has been our ability to assimilate different cultures and to be able to take the best that each culture has to offer and take advantage of that and
Yes.
meld it in with the rest of what's going on.
And who we really need to learn that from is Japan.
Really?
Yes. So Japan is known for um, finding something in another culture, and then improving upon it. And take, for instance, the Japanese gardens. If you go to, you have some beautiful Japanese gardens where you are, over at the Huntington Library.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. In the Huntington Library, you have some beautiful Japanese gardens there. Japanese gardens are immaculate.
Oh,
They
yeah.
scrub the trunks of the trees.
Wow.
But if you go now, I used to live in Portland, Oregon, and they have the most authentic Japanese gardens in Portland, Oregon, outside of Japan. Well, the year that I left Portland, they created the Lansu Chinese Gardens, and it's this multi-block facility that's in the Pearl District, and it's open air. And when you go through, it's so beautiful. It's amazing. You don't realize like there's this oasis in the middle of a city. It's incredible, and you don't when you're so enwrapped in it when you're walking through, but all you have to do is look up and you can see a high rise and you realize you're in the city. It's meant to look like and to simulate a mountain home and a wealthy person's mountain home in China. But the difference with the gardens, they look very similar, the Chinese gardens and the Japanese gardens. But in the Chinese gardens, they're much more relaxed. Leaves fell off the ground. Oh, that's okay. We'll let the wind pile them up and, they'll be in the corner. Oh, we'll get to those later. But you won't see leaves on the ground in a Japanese garden.
Uh-huh.
Yes. And when we conquered Japan in World War II, we occupied Japan. We were there and rebuilding. And Japan looked at the way Americans did business back in the late 40s and early 50s. And what they did was they took that concept of how we were running businesses and then they perfected them. And while Americans have gotten far away from what their original corporate missions were, Japan has honed in on it. And Japanese businesses are very successful around the world. And we're seeing more and more Japanese businesses coming in. The last time I was at the mall, there was this store that was all dedicated that was from Japan, a clothing store. And I thought, well, that's new. You know,
Yeah,
we've not seen that before.
yeah,
And my kid is going to Japan at the end of June, is going to turn 14 there in Japan. So, Japan and the United States, various places, we have sister cities in Japan. And my kid's going to Miyasa, Japan to learn about Japanese culture. And the following year, Miyasa will be coming here. And, they do that alternative kind of thing. And, that's the way to do it is we invite each other. We're all one world and, we're the small speck in this vast universe. And while it looks so large to us as an individual, when we really put ourselves into the universe, we see how small we are. So we may as well get along and learn from each other.
yeah, and absolutely. And I think that the ways that that can happen are infinite in terms of people's creativity
Yeah,
and inspiration and stuff. And I
yeah.
think that, I mean, so much of, what you share, I think, inspires people to open up and accept more of what's true, and be lifted up by that, people to be able to see you as an example of someone that um, has thrived at a really high level in spite of, you know, childhood difficulties, you know, uh,
Yes, despite that.
it just,
Yeah.
it's like, the story brings hope, right? And it brings belief, and it's like, she can do it, maybe I can.
Thank you. That's exactly, yes, absolutely. Is that I came through it. And when I was writing my book, I wrote the first draft. And chapter 10, it's in three sections, 10 chapters each. And when I came to chapter 10, I thought I'm going to put in here everything that's terrible about abuse and, how miserable my life was. And when I went to write the second draft, I hated that chapter. And I said, I have to get rid of this. And I took a couple important points and put them in, rearranged it a bit. But then said, I'm about to tell people exactly how bad it is. I need to give them some hope. And so chapter 10 became my victor chapter that look what I've done.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
know, the 4-year-old wanted to go to Paris. And so the 40-year-old took her. And the 15-year-old looked at skydiving and said, wow, that looks really cool. I'd like to do that. And the 35-year-old jumped out of a plane 289 times, right?
Wow.
And the 16-year-old whose cousin was flying airplanes said, boy, I'd like to do that. And, the 40-year-old said, well, you're going to learn how to fly a plane now. And, all those things. And, the 20-year-old who took an art class and loved the art class said, well, I'm going to go to Spain and go to the El Prado Museum, and I'm going to sit in front of and go next door to see Picasso's Guernica, and is going to go to the Louvre and the New York Metropolitan Museum of Art, and is going to have a fine art collection in her home. And, so I've taken care of that little girl. I gave that little girl a voice by producing my book, by publishing my book. And she needed a voice, and so I gave one to her, and now she's spoken, and now it's what's next for me, and so yes, I'm now a published author. I have more books, It's on my way to becoming a New York Times bestseller. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. That's, I'm putting that out there in the universe.
Absolutely.
And it's teaching others that, and I have a meeting in an hour about this, but I can't get into it. But it's teaching others how to recognize the signs and the warning signs beforehand.
Right.
So,
And what to do about it.
and what to do about it, and to be able to remove yourself from that equation. And so there are a couple of mantras that I live by. One of the mantras that is saved my life many times. Most people give up when success is right around the corner.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite quotes. There are going to be times where you're going to have the breakdown. And there's always the breakdown before the breakthrough. And yesterday I was broken down, and I know today the breakthrough is coming. I'm having a breakthrough before noon, and it's going to be amazing. I'm very excited about this. So there's the breakdown before the breakthrough. But always remember that most people give up when success is right around the corner, so persist. And, one thing is, I was not the best math student. I had trouble with long division, but I persisted. And by my senior year of high school, I was doing third level calculus. So I got a C in science. By the time I hit college, I was a biology major and pre-med, and then became a physician. I took the MCATs 4 times. I took the SATs 4 times to break 1,000. I took the MCATs 4 times to get a decent score to get into medical school. I'm persistent. And every time I get knocked down, it means, okay, let me assess the situation, dust myself off, get back up, and go, okay, that way didn't work. What will? Let me pivot. And, I'm facing probably one of the most difficult times in my life right now, even more so than, well, no, I don't know. I know that now I know I have options. And
Right.
while sometimes it seems like that mountain in the back of you is the pinnacle, and oh my goodness, how am I going to get back up to the top of that? And I'm down in, Crater Lake down at the bottom, and it's empty, and I'm looking up, how am I going to get out of this? There are ways. And you can't do it alone. You have to have help, and you have to have other people with you. And the predators keep you isolated. That is one thing. They keep you isolated, and that's why they win so often. But if you learn discernment with who to trust, that trust is earned, know that trust is earned, know to put safeguards in place, but still walk forward. But you still need to walk forward. And as you do that, you will succeed and you will endure. And it's also, turning that pain into purpose. It was painful what I went through as a kid. I'm not going to lie. It was horribly painful. That there were times where I said, why, God, why are you punishing me like this? What did I do that was so bad that I deserve this?
Yeah.
And now I'm able to step back and say, oh, that's why. Okay. That was my anointing. Because now I get to step back, and while I look and I see all these other things, that my goal in life was to end pedophilia. So how am I going to do that? Well, my healer said, your purpose is to free women. Yes, my purpose is to free women. And I'm going to do that in the next 2 hours when I meet with my future partner. Can I still end pedophilia? Because what I have going on is going to make so much money that now I can shift that into a foundation to help those college-aged girls who need to leave their abusive stepfathers. And I can create scholarships for them, and I can create a safety net for them. And I can create enough women who want to liberate other women physicians so that we look over to the medical students and we help liberate other women physicians so that they are not dependent on student loans. And we sponsor them and we bring them in and we have them work with us and we recreate medicine. Because let's face it, when you are treated by a woman physician, your mortality rate goes down, your length of stay goes down, and your rate of readmission goes down because you were treated by a woman. And it's not because we're smarter, it's because we listen and we take the time that the patient needs and we give them the human element that has been missing from medicine for so long. Right? And so now with my coaching business isn't just to help one individual woman, it's to help recreate medicine from a woman's perspective. And it doesn't mean that we don't need the man's perspective. We need all sides. Jordan Peterson said, in corporations, men don't know how to compete with women. They don't know what to do. They know how to compete with other men, but they don't, when a woman comes in, they don't know how to talk to them. They don't know what to do. And I'm saying we're not meant to compete. We're not your competition. We're meant to we're meant to work together. We are your Azer Kenegdo, your powerful ally. And I am a thought leader leading the way for women to restore that Azer identity. We're not taking the blame for the fall. Adam, you were just as responsible for eating that apple. So stop blaming that woman and stop blaming God because we're not doing that anymore. It's a ministry. It really is. It's a ministry. And, my coach is Andrea Engstrom. She's fantastic. I've got to throw a shout out to her that if you've ever wanted to become a coach, that take her program because she is just amazing, and she's teaching me to be an amazing coach, and she has a ministry. I mean, it's a ministry that's disguised as a coaching program, and in reality, that's what I'm doing too. This is a ministry. It's under the title of physician coaching, but it's really a ministry.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a healing ministry.
One of the things that in watching you and seeing how animated you are is I think that that's such a validating aspect to look for in terms of people's ability to find solutions and to implement them and inspire other people. Always looked is how much light and joy is coming out of them, and certainly when you talk
Yeah.
about this, it's like lights up the universe. And
Yes,
so that's
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
that's that's a to me that's always an indicator of like, yeah, right track there.
Well, it's interesting. I look at, so what does my name mean? Dawn is early light.
hmm
What does Marie mean? It means bitter.
Oh.
Yeah. So through my name, my mother was just dampening my light. Here, you're Dawn, the light. Oh, we're going to put bitter on top of that. And so I like to look at, my progress not as that the bitterness is dampening my light, but quite the opposite, that my light is coming through the bitterness. And it's really how you frame it when you begin to look at the pain that you've been through and to say, what is the purpose of that? And then to use that purpose to drive yourself forward. You make the world a better place. You are serving humanity. And that's what we each are here to do. That's what God has asked us. Go serve humanity. What did God ask? What did God ask um, Luther? Is that right? Yeah, Luther. What whatever, the devil, Satan, whatever. He asked him, serve humanity. And he said, no, I want to serve you. Like, no, serve humanity. I want to serve you. Well, if you're focused on, you serve God by serving humanity. And that's what I'm here to do. And it's a beautiful place to be. And it's not always straight, and it's messy, and it's frightening. And there are times where I'm doubtful and I'm crying my eyeballs out and and then I'm grateful and I'm like, okay, I see it. All right, I gotcha. Okay, this is just, this is the breakdown before the breakthrough. Okay, I get it. All right, I'm getting there. So you
And
keep marching forward.
one of the things that you share that I so appreciate is this idea that you're still in process and that it's not all smooth, and that because I think people need to hear that it isn't going to be smooth, and don't give up when it gets rough
That's right.
because
Don't give up. Yeah,
I mean and I mean and I've had and I can certainly attest to my biggest breakdowns have led to my biggest breakthroughs,
exactly. Exactly. And
and I'm
sometimes,
still there, I mean yesterday was like I didn't think I was going to get through the day yesterday.
oh no, yes.
I mean, I've had times where it was like I had a goal in life. It was to make it through the next 3 minutes.
Yes, and sometimes that's what it is, right? Sometimes it's just let me get through breakfast. Okay. You're right. Sometimes that's what it is. And you take that step by step. And that's where you are in that moment. But know that it doesn't look smooth, that it's very often messy, that sometimes we have very ugly stories that either happen to us or that we have given to someone else. And but there's something else on the other side. And there's this beauty in forgiveness. God is a loving God. Forgiveness is There's a lot of controversy about forgiveness. And part of that is the lie that is forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean that what happened to you was okay. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you need to reconcile with the person. Forgiveness says, I see the purpose in the pain, and I'm going to take that pain and I'm going to take that yoke off of my shoulders and I'm going to hand it over to God. And I'm going to let God take that burden for me because it's no longer my burden to carry. And that's really beautiful. We talk about Jesus coming back when he returns, that he's going to have a sword in his mouth. And that sword is the word. And what is that word? That word is love. God is love. You are love and you are God. God is in all of us. And when we remember that, when we bring ourselves back to that, when we preach that, when we teach that to others, we defeat the enemy.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well, I think this has been a wonderful time.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. I didn't mean to miss
No,
this
no,
time.
no, I wanted, this is exactly, I mean, anytime that I can participate in any way in allowing people to own and share their light and to be this inspiring, uplifting example to people that brings hope and solutions to situations that would otherwise seem hopeless.
Yeah.
It's, sign me up, I mean, my my thing is that I have some mantras too, and one of the thoughts that I dearly love is that There's no guarantee that being myself is going to work, but I'm 100% certain that not being myself won't work.
Will
So
fail. Exactly. That's right.
I'm gonna do what I can
Yes.
to discover through increased meditation, acceptance, awareness, who I am, and to be that person. And when I'm out there, bottom of my email says, I'm advancing the understanding, the global acceptance of the fact that we're one, and
Yes. We are all one.
that's
Exactly.
that's my thing, and the way that people can, relate to that and understand that more is the an aspect of being one is the fact that there is a win-win solution to every problem,
Yes.
and that the more it's there, it's waiting for us to recognize it and implement it and align with it, and so that's kind of my thing. And so anytime that I can provide a forum for people like you
Hmm.
to spread their light and their because uh, when you show the world how uplifting it is for you to be you, you
Yeah.
inspire other people to be themselves also. And
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
so it's an
Exactly.
inspiring thing, and I so appreciate, just the tremendous light that you had to share, and
Thank you
that's
so
the
much.
thing.
The metaphor that I enjoy using is like the ocean. The ocean is God as one consciousness. And there are waves in that ocean. And each, you can see one individual wave, and that is you. That is a wave that is expressed as the ocean. And you are the wave. You are God expressed as Scott. I'm a wave. I'm God expressed as Don Marie. And each of those waves are individual, but they're distinct and you can see them, but they're all part of the ocean. They're still part of one. Yeah, we are all one conscious. We are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So if people want to contact you, what's the best way?
They can contact me on social media by my full name, Don Marie Wristley Childs. They can contact me on my website, drwrisleychilds.com. So it's DrRisleyChilds.com. They can put my whole name in Amazon and they can find my book. I'll show it to you. This is my book, The Offering, A
Awesome.
Physician's Journey Through Abuse, Psychedelics, and the Freedom of Forgiveness. And it's 1995 on Amazon for a paperback. Still working on correcting the hardcover. It's been a journey. Self-publishing can be kind of a challenge, but yeah. So please go and read my book and then hand it to someone who you know who can use that. And yeah, that's how you can find me.
Awesome. Awesome. And if you want to reach me to be a guest, to reach out, to talk, connect, whatever, my email is scottfriedman40 at gmail.com, ScottFriedman 40 at gmail.com. And we can all connect and support one another. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. I think we'll end it here unless there's anything else you'd like to share.
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Okay.